let us take a closer look at how Sean Strickland figured out and one-sidedly defeated Israel Adesanya. The first thing we have to cover is that big knockdown. Why did this happen? Usually all of Adesanya's opponents are very hesitant to walk forward, come forward, or even fight in the pocket. They know Adesanya is a great counterpuncher, and so they even make him a better counterpuncher by being hesitant. Sean Strickland simply just didn't care, and he just walked in, closed the range, and kept just casually walking down on Adesanya and was in the boxing range. Now usually Adesanya is just very focused on counterpunching, so he will usually lean back from the jab or the straight and come back in with a beautiful check hook that has knocked out so many opponents. He knocked out Robert Whittaker with it, he knocked out Paulo Costa with it, and it is just simply a staple in his defensive arsenal. And Sean really figured out this pretty quickly as he just followed up with a second jab and threw in the right straight, anticipating him leaning back and countering in with a left hook. So that is pretty much the biggest counterpunching window that Adesanya has when he's essentially rope shining. So Strickland defeated him in that game. Another game where Adesanya got defeated in was the kicking game, surprisingly. Usually when Adesanya fights out of the southpaw stance, he is only looking to throw kicks, leg kicks, body kicks, whatever it may be. And as soon as you saw Adesanya switch stances, you can best believe he will throw a kick, and most of those kicks got actually caught by Sean Strickland. So not only did he lose his kicking ability, this means he also lost his ability to hit his opponent at a range and control the distance. So Adesanya has lost two things: his ability to get out of the pocket and his ability to keep the fight at a distance. Now Adesanya is a natural orthodox fighter, so he will predominantly fight out of that stance, and when he is in that stance, he will usually throw only punches. And we have seen, for example, Adesanya knock out Alex Pereira, right? When did that happen? This really happened when the opponent comes in, overextends, overreaches, has himself out of balance, doesn't really know how to recover off of a big looping shot that he threw. And in those instances, Adesanya will just knock you out flat because you will be walking into a big hook, big straight, whatever it may be, and he will drop you. That's exactly how Robert Whittaker got finished in the first fight. And what did Robert Whittaker do in the second fight? He became super timid. He was fighting very scared, he didn't want to engage one bit, and he tried to just have a point fight. That didn't work. Why is that? Because the way that Robert Whittaker throws punches and kicks, he always, leaps in with them. He always rushes in with them. He always steps in with them. And the biggest difference between all of those opponents is that, perhaps you can look at Robert Whittaker and say, wow, he's got great striking and he's obviously better skilled or has better technique than Sean Strickland. The lack of skill and lack of versatility and the lack of abundance in techniques allowed Sean Strickland to be a bare bones, relying on the basics fighter. And sometimes basics will beat the more advanced techniques. Sometimes if you have the right fundamentals, a single jab can carry the fight, and that is exactly what happened in this matchup. Who can say that Sean Strickland is a better kickboxer than Adesanya? Nobody can say that, but he beat him. Why? Because sometimes styles make fights, and sometimes the basics are really forgotten, and that's why I believe that Adesanya really lacked in this matchup. Adesanya does not have a good jab. Adesanya does not have a good right straight. Adesanya does not have good offense. He doesn't really know how to fight off of the front foot anyway, because he doesn't really have the power to do so to begin with. And aside from that, he's too long. His limbs are too long. He has too much height, his legs are too long. Everything is too long. So he has to fight predominantly using straight punches and being on the outside. That is what he likes to do. But a smaller fighter with a shorter reach and with a more stocky build, with a more powerful base, can come forward, stick on the inside, have a strong base on the inside, and generate a lot more power than a tall, rangy fighter. This is just why the shorter fighter always rushes in on the taller fighter. That is also my biggest critique of Adesanya. The guy just simply did not improve upon his skills. He did not advance. He did not become a better MMA fighter. He just kept on relying on the kickboxing fundamentals, which, obviously they work. But however, we can't forget the fight with Calvin Gastelum, for example. In that fight, what happened? A 5'9" fighter who fights out of the southpaw stance was able to jab him up all night long. Why? Because he does not have adequate blocking. He doesn't have adequate head movement off of the front foot. He always has to lean back, move back, and, everything has to be going backwards. Nothing has, great forward momentum. He's not like Canelo Alvarez that has both great head movement on the front foot but also on the back foot. He has everything combined. But Adesanya is very one-dimensional, and he got figured out. Like I said, when Adesanya fights out of the orthodox stance, he is primarily a boxer. When he switches to southpaw, he will start kicking. Against Calvin Gastelum, he was in southpaw, so the stance is mirrored. What happened? He kept getting jabbed in the face. He turned into orthodox. What happened? The range got even closer, so then the jabs were more prominent. So in that sense, he didn't have a way out of it. But against an orthodox fighter like Sean Strickland, his range is a little bit more at ease, but this time you have a maniac just walking in, knocking on the door, kicking it in, and just, throwing a big right hand and dropping you. This is just simply an instance of styles making fights and Adesanya being figured out by a style that is just his antidote. There's nothing more to say about it than that, really. If there is a rematch, it'll be very, very hard for Adesanya to beat him. It'll be something similar like when Robert Whittaker wasn't able to beat Adesanya in the second fight. So maybe something like that will occur once again. But you never know, Adesanya is a very great champion. He might make the right adjustments, but I doubt it. What is he going to do? Fight off the front foot? He doesn't have the power. What is he going to do? Wrestle Sean Strickland? I mean, not in a million years. So it'll be very, very exciting to see a rematch between these two. I want to see all the adjustments they make. And until next time, I'm Keenan KTV, signing off. Later.